And we'll get started here. Just give it, I think people a few more seconds to get on, and we'll start shortly. All right. I think we'll begin. Again, thank you for everybody for attending, and we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. There is interpretation available. To listen in Spanish or Chinese, going to enter a breakout room, which is the little kind of globe icon on the bottom of your screen, and select the language that you need.
Bienvenidos, tenemos disponible interpretación simultánea en español. Para escuchar en español debe entrar en la sala de interpretación. Haga clic en el icono del globo terráqueo en la parte inferior de la pantalla y seleccione español.
欢迎各位参加我们这个座谈会。如果您需要这个口译服务呢，中文口译服务，请待会呢在这个荧幕最底下呢，点击这个地球形的标图，然后再选择中文，就进入我们这个中文口译的服务房。谢谢各位。
And we'll give a little bit of time for everybody to get into their breakout rooms. And then we'll get started. All right, well, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming on to go over Gunner's Lake. I want to have some introductions. There's several of us from Montgomery Parks here today. We're from the Park Development Division. That'd be me, Michael Lowe, the project manager. And then we also have Park Planning and Stewardship Division represented. Park management staff from the Northern region. And then we also have the Public Affairs and Community Partnerships and Park Police as well. So hopefully we can answer any of your questions later on. And then we also have our interpreters. A little bit of housekeeping. We will be recording this presentation, and we'll be posting it on the project website, which is linked right below. And that'll probably take a couple days to get that up, but it should be showing up there shortly. And then also during the presentation, you can click on the Q&A box, which is a little, looks like that little icon down at the bottom, and just type in your questions or comments. We don't allow anybody to speak, but just type in your question or anything there, and we can answer that at the end. And additionally, after the presentation, we'd love for you to fill out the Open Town Hall survey. The link is below, and that has, you can kind of go through that, and it helps us get some feedback on what you guys are liking and want to see at the park. A little short agenda. Going to be going over the playground renovation program in Montgomery County Parks, and then we'll get into the Gunner's Lake Local Park, some of the existing conditions, and then go into a little bit of the proposed scope of the renovations and preliminary ideas, and kind of what we're thinking, and then get into some playground equipment examples, and then open it up for questions and answers. So a little bit about our playground renovation program. Montgomery Parks believes in play, and it's a really fundamental part of each child's world. Really enhances the physical, cognitive, social, and emotional development for kids. We feel it's very important for kids to get out, get some fresh air. They learn to explore and manipulate their environments and interact with each other through playing on these areas. And then perhaps the most influential piece is, just really help them grow and learn during the early childhood. Part of this program is inspection maintenance. We have 275 playgrounds within the county park system, and each is inspected monthly by a certified playground safety inspector. Make sure they're safe. There's no, sharp objects or anything on them. And then the playgrounds in the current schedule for replacement is kind of beyond that 20-year cycle. So after about 20 years, we start looking at the need for replacement of these facilities. And part of the playground renovation program is, kind of looking at our countywide playgrounds and what needs to be renovated, and kind of looking through our playground renovation capital improvements program and how much can we afford each year on renovating and upgrading these facilities. The average cost for a local park playground replacement is about $350,000. That's kind of a base. I mean, it can be up or down depending on the size of the playground and how many features it has. And there's about 135 playgrounds in the county that are over 20 years old. So about 50% of our facilities need to be updated, and we're just working through that the best we can. And one of the issues is we need to really figure out how to prioritize our playground renovations. So we rank everyone, kind of give it a condition of how good a shape it's in, look at the age of it, and then if it has wood, like a wood playground, has more of a priority because of splinters and it just wears faster. And then we look at inspectors' priority and see if, if there's issues with some of the equipment, that moves further up to the top. And then we also want to be equitable throughout the county. So we're not just improving playgrounds in a certain area of the county. We're trying to make sure everybody's, gets impacted. The program is, we have code compliance. So there's no federal playground safety law, but most states enforce a standard of care for playground safety. And we follow the guidelines of the CPSC, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, and then the ASTM, American Society for Testing and Materials, and the IPEMA, the International Playground Equipment Manufacturers Association, and making sure we're in compliance with all of these. The typical components for a playground renovation is the play equipment itself, the swings, the structures, and everything. We try to provide a mixture of activity types for different ages and different skill levels. We replace the surfacing. We want to have a soft surfacing underneath anything for fall surface. And then we also put under drainage in to make sure there's no ponding or any kind of water issues underneath the playground. We provide an accessible route to the playground from either a parking area or a sidewalk, and then seating for the parents and caregivers. We usually put several benches around. And then we also want to provide maintenance access so we can get in there and maintain these facilities. And then putting in these communication boards, which it's kind of a new feature we're adding. The design and construction process, right now we're in the winter of 2024, you can believe it already. And we're having this community meeting to get you guys' feedback And then we're going to take that feedback and from the survey that you guys fill out and the comments for tonight and try to address those and come up with a kind of conceptual design. And then we'll share that with you and see if you guys have any comments on that. And then once we kind of nail down a design, we start working on the construction documents and permits. And that takes about a year. And then so with all that, we'd probably have a construction anticipated kind of beginning in the fall of 2025. And now we can get into actually the Gunners Lake Local Park. Wanted to kind of go over a little bit of the existing conditions out there and what we see and what we think we can improve. Here's just a shot of the parking lot, a little bit of the playground that's there, and then the picnic structure, and a little bit on the right is the soccer fields. The location, if anybody is not familiar with Gunners Lake Local Park, it's just northwest of Gunners Lake, as you can see kind of down here, and just kind of right south of downtown Germantown and west of I-270. And you access the site off of Great Seneca Highway, and it's kind of just kitty corner from the new high school there in Germantown. The existing park features has, this is just an aerial view of the existing park with, you can kind of see the two cross streets of Wisteria Drive and Great Seneca Highway. North is up, and then the Germantown Square is kind of across the street. So this big dark red line is the property boundary. The site is about 9 acres in size, and it was acquired in 1982, I believe, from kind of a development of this area. And it has a parking lot for 82 cars, 82 spaces. It has a small playground, and then a 20 by 36 picnic shelter kind of next to it. And then it has kind of the access drive off of Gray Eagle Court, kind of pull off of Great Seneca Highway and jog into the site. And it also has the two nice large soccer fields. And one thing I wanted to point out is you can kind of notice this large area south of the soccer fields, which isn't really being used very well, in our opinion. So we have some ideas of activating that area of the park. So this kind of shows you that area I was talking about of, it's about 130 feet from the existing soccer fields to the actual property line. And we feel that we could use this space a lot better and kind of tie it closer to the elementary school to the south. Here's some pictures of the existing playground. As you can see, it's well overdue. It needs to be renovated, and we're looking forward to getting this project started and getting some ideas flowing for this. I believe it's about 32 years old or so, so it's well past the 20 years life cycle. And looking at some of the kind of retaining wall and fencing to the soccer fields, engineered wood fiber surfacing, and then has a bench and a small bike rack and things like that. So, but it's a kind of on the smaller side. I believe it's about 2,500 square feet. The existing conditions for the picnic shelter, it's a nice size shelter, and it can be permitted through Montgomery Parks. It's about 20 by 36. It has about 6 picnic tables and has a grill on one end, and has a nice connection to the play area. And then some of the existing conditions on the edge of the park, kind of on the lower right here is kind of an aerial of the site, and you can kind of see how, you can't really see into the park, and there's not really a good pedestrian entrance. Most of the access is through your car vehicle off of Seneca Road. And with that, we'll move into a little bit of our proposed scope for the park improvements and some preliminary ideas to run by you guys. So the proposed scope is to renovate and shift the soccer fields to the south. As you can kind of see, that I brought up, we have a lot of land that's not really used on the south side of the property. That allows us to increase the size of the playground and kind of relocate the picnic shelter kind of between the soccer fields, play area, and parking lot. And it adds some informal lawn areas that we can look at activating and using in different ways. Providing some additional amenities and site furniture throughout the park, and improving pedestrian access and increasing the accessibility, making sure everything's ADA certified, and adding some stormwater management improvements throughout the park. And that would be these little kind of blue areas where we'd be capturing some of the rainwater and treating that as we're doing these developments. And also maybe looking at some kind of entry feature and connections to the neighborhood in different corners of the park to connect it to the existing sidewalks. And another feature we're looking at is possibly adding a loop walking trail around the fields, just to help provide some additional amenities at the park. So just kind of zooming in on the soccer fields, we're looking at shifting this soccer fields about 80 feet to the south. Kind of these arrows kind of show, you can kind of see the old soccer field location in the white below there, and then shifting these down. The fields will remain the same. They're about 200 feet by 310 feet. So they're a nice size soccer field, and with about a 20-foot run out around the edge. And we'd still have room on the outside of that run out space to have a nice 6-foot path going around the soccer fields. And we'd probably have some ADA seating on each, kind of centered on the soccer fields on each side. So everybody can kind of get out there to the fields. And then kind of zooming into the playground area, looking at enlarging the playground area to allow for additional play equipment. We'd probably double the size of the existing playground that's there. And this also allows us to create a little buffer from parking lot, kind of moving kids away from the existing cars and parking. And then also creating kind of a better connection to the soccer fields as well. We'll be able to remove that existing retaining wall, and still might need some fencing, but it's going to be a lot better connection that way. And here's just some kind of examples of some different newer playgrounds that we've put in. And then looking at the picnic shelter, kind of shifting that from its existing location by the play area, and kind of moving it over, and so it's easy access from the existing parking lot, and then also connects to the playground and soccer fields. So it's a nice kind of park center area there with some nice informal lawns kind of around it. We'd be looking at installing some new grills, and the structure would be the same size, 20 by 36, so it would be able to be permitted, and it'll have probably 6 or so picnic tables out there. Some potential other additions to the park. It's mentioned maybe some fitness equipment in some of these informal lawn areas, kind of like the lower right picture, kind of an area for adults to get some exercise, even if their kids are out in the soccer field or in the playground. Gives something else to some other activities to do in the park. Looking at different seating areas possibly throughout the park. Maybe there's some other areas that people know of that are nice areas to get away from and relax. And then the walking path kind of surrounding the soccer fields. And then maybe a nature play area similar to these lower left pictures of some logs and rocks, and kids can kind of play around in that area. That wouldn't be part of the playground, it would be its own kind of area. And then we also talked about maybe some kind of entry feature on the northeast corner of the site, kind of welcoming people into the park, since it is kind of hidden from the existing roads. We wouldn't be really changing the existing parking lot at all. There might be some minor impacts and improving the ADA parking and shifting those spaces around, but the overall, I think the parking lot would stay pretty much the same. Also look at improving park connections. Since this park is kind of elevated up above the existing roads, I think that some nice couple different entrances would be nice for pedestrians. Stairs might be needed in some of these places, but we were thinking that the first one, it would be on the corner, kind of coming off of Great Seneca Highway and Wisteria Drive. And then the second one would be maybe this connection over on the southeast corner of the site, where there's existing crosswalk across Wisteria, and that would be able to walk up the hill. There's already kind of some people's choice paths where people are kind of walking up the hill to kind of get to the school or to the park from this area. And then the third one would be over the connection to the North Lake Apartments. And this one we'd have to coordinate, since it would be off of our property, coordinate with North Lake Apartments and to make sure that they're okay with having some kind of connection there. Some of the kind of equipment examples, since we'll be kind of redoing this area, would be some examples. And this is kind of where you can kind of maybe think about what you'd like to see and what your kids like to play with or play on. Some 2 to 5 year old examples would be some enclosed swings, kind of simple slides, crawl tubes, some simple balancing activities. We usually do a lot of the multi-spring toys or some spinning activities. And then there's always the easy climbers and simple bridges, and then the interactive play and imaginary play have also been really popular recently, and just kind of get people's kids' ideas and activated. So here's just some pictures of some of the spinning activities in the upper left, some of the enclosed swings, kind of more of, they call them a bucket swing for kids. And then we also have the multi-spring toys and kind of the teeter-totter type of things that are spring-loaded, and then some simple slides and different kind of smaller structures for the smaller kids. And then here's some of the kind of balancing activities, some imaginary play in the upper center, which have been really popular. And then, like I said, the interactive play, and some easy climbers and different things like that. And then of course, kids love getting into the crawl tubes and crossing the simple bridges. Some of the play equipment for kind of the 5 to 12 year old, there's a lot these are kind of the bigger structures, more ropes higher up, the larger swings, more challenging slides, a lot of chain and cable walks, the freestanding climbers and towers, and then a lot of the track rides and the larger spinning activities. And here's some examples here. Some track rides, some of the chain and cable walks, and some of these connections where you kind of climb up and shimmy across these ropes and everything. And then some of the larger spinning activities, either kind of the personal spinners or the kind of group, kind of almost the old merry-go-round type with kind of more elevation to them. And then here's some of the more 5 to 12-year-olds, some kind of more modern swings, which are kind of fun, and then kind of a group swinging, almost like the old tire swings, and then some of the horizontal climbers, and then the taller, challenging slides and towers, which everybody seems to like. So just some examples and kind of get your thoughts thinking about what maybe you'd like to see out at Gunner's Lake. And maybe start thinking about colors, but I also want to bring up the open town hall feedback. We want to make sure that we know what you guys want to see out here, and get the community input as best as we can. And here's the links down below here, the mocoparks.org and then GLLP survey. And some of these sample questions are just kind of, what are your priorities? What park improvements do you want to see the most? So we can kind of start thinking about ranking different things. And what are your priorities? What kind of play equipment would you like to see? What kind of colors? Is it, do you want bright and vibrant colors or more kind of muted colors or different things like that? So it's kind of get your input on what you'd like to see. And also don't forget to, if you have any comments or anything, just put that in the Q&A on the bottom of your screen there. So the next steps after we kind of go through your questions at the end of this presentation and kind of get feedback through the survey that's online, and that online survey will be up for a month. So, if you don't want to do it tonight, you can do it the next several weeks. And then we'll get that feedback, and then we'll start looking at developing and revising the concept based on those comments. And then we'll post the concept to the project website, which is located in the bottom here, in blue. And then we can you can see what we came up with. Then we can look at some more feedback from the community and what you'd like, don't like on that. And here's another link to the survey as well. And then here's some examples on the right of kind of the next step in the process of kind of refining. And instead of bubbles, we start looking at exactly, the play equipment that's going in, what'll fit in these areas, how it all works, and make sure it's all accessible. And we can start refining it and getting it to where we can produce construction drawings and actually getting it in the ground. So again, my contact information, my name's Mike Lowe. I'm the project manager, and here's my email address and my phone number. And so if you have any questions or anything, you don't want to put any comments or Q&A, I mean, I'm happy to talk to you on the phone with any questions or anything. The project website is linked here. That'll have this recording, and I'll also post a PDF of this presentation so you can look through this again. And then if you have any maintenance concerns as far as the park goes, Steve Root, park manager, and that's his contact information. And then if you have any safety concerns or anything, please contact the park police. They're available 24/7, and that's their number. And then if there's anything immediate, please call 911. So I think that's about it. We're going to open it up for some Q&A, and we'll try to answer any questions you have. And I think I'll turn it over to Tricia to kind of go through some of the comments.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mike. I'm Tricia McManus. I'm our design section manager. And as Mike had mentioned previously, our project team is on the call, and we'll work together to try to address your questions and comments. So please, I see some starting to filter in the Q&A, but please, ask us questions, tell us what you'd like to see in the park, and we'll just go through these together. Our team on the call tonight includes Aaron McCardle, who's our project engineer. We have Steve Root, our park manager. We have Jeff Brightwell and Jen Scully from our park management team as well. Carl Weber, who is our athletic field coordinator. So if there's questions you have about the fields, and then Officer Derek Williams from Park Police. So if there's concerns and questions you have about park security and those kinds of issues, we have our team ready to answer any questions that you might have. And what we're going to do is, as we go through the questions, I'll try to direct them to one of our team members who might be best suited to answer the question. But I'm asking our team, anyone who has information, just jump in and we'll answer and address these questions and issues as a team in an informal way so that we can provide the best information that we collectively have. So I'm just going to start in the order that they're coming in, but please make sure to tell us what you'd like to see. And we're really excited about this project because we had started thinking about this as a playground renovation project, and then realized that in order to make a better playground, as Mike was, that playground was so tight where it was, in order to make a better playground and make that front end of the park better, we had this space where we could shift the fields, which are also in need of renovation. And so we have the opportunity to look at the park more holistically. So we'd love to hear anything you'd like to see in that park. We have space to add other, smaller amenities, and we'd love to hear what you would like for your park. So I'm going to start now through the questions that are coming in, and I'm glad to see there's some more coming in. The first question was, would EV charging stations be considered for the parking lot? And I'm going to ask our park management team if they have comments on this, but I know that we do have a pilot, some pilot EV charging stations that we've worked with Pepco in locations for certain parks. So they are distributed around the county, and we're seeing how this works out. I don't think, this was one of the projects we were intending to do that with, and it adds cost to the project. But I wonder if Steve or Jeff have any thoughts you might want to add to that.
This is Steve. I don't have any additional comments. I think you answered it quite well.
Okay,
and
great.
I haven't put any thought into it. It's a great question though.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I can add
yeah.
a little bit, Trish, as well. This is Jeff Brightwell, Regional Operations Manager. The sites that we worked with Pepco for were based off of our larger regional recreational size facilities for the pilot program. We haven't really delved into expanding into the local park scenarios or the neighborhood park scenarios yet. Just because we want to see what kind of data we can collect about usage before we move forward with entertaining those sites.
Okay, thanks,
And
Jeff.
one comment that I would like to add is there is actually no electricity or power to the park right now, so we would have to bring it in from the right of way. So
Okay, thanks, Mike. And then the next question I think was answered during the presentation, but could facilities such as stairs be added from Wisteria Drive for easier access to the adjacent neighborhoods? And we agree, that's a great comment. And we thought it was important to get connections from the corner and at that crosswalk. But if you have thoughts, further about that, and we will have to work with the adjacent property owner to see if we can make the connection all the way through. But that is something we agree is very important. The next comment was that memory tile game boards would be nice to add to the play areas, and that's a great comment, great idea that we can include in the ideas for the equipment. The next question was, would a dog park be considered as part of the redevelopment? And I might ask our park management team for their thoughts on that as well. But I know we had done, our park planning team had done site suitability studies in terms of ideal locations for dog parks. I mean, I'm not sure that we have the space in this park, even when we're moving back, in order to keep the existing amenities that we have. I'm not sure we have the amount of room that we would need for that here, in trying to improve the playground. And, we do have a little bit of space. I'm not certain it would be enough for a dog park. And we do have certain site selection criteria for where we locate them. But it's something we can check into. We can consider it. I'm not sure that this site would be ideal for that. And especially given we also have, the parking is very limited here, and those facilities tend to draw, drive to use to the park. So it's something we can look at, but I'm not sure we have the adequate space here. And would anyone on our park management team want to add to that?
Trish, I think you summed that up pretty well.
Okay. And we do have, I know we do have the Black Hill Dog Park. So it's not too far from here as well, and the one at Ridge Road as well. But the next question is, I'm going to direct to Mike. Could you went over the timeline for the project early in the presentation. Could you kind of repeat what we're thinking of for that?
Yeah, I can go back to that slide. We're looking at basically, I think it's a fall of 2025 start construction. So it does take a while to kind of get kind of the design nailed down, and then going into construction documents, and we have to get permits for everything, especially if we're working out in the right of way, and kind of going through that. And then we're envisioning an anticipated start date in the fall of 2025, and probably be a 6-month or 8-month kind of construction. There's going to be a lot of earthwork moving, regrading those fields, and we're going to impact most of the park at that time. So, but that's kind of what we're looking at.
Okay, thanks, Mike. The next questions is, how would parks manage high school students using the park as a hangout while skipping school? And I don't think we can really prohibit that use, but I know that what we're trying to do with the shelter, is to where people do tend to, and I might direct some part of this question to Officer Williams from Park Police, but we do, or Steve Root, our park manager, I know we have observed you know, people hanging out in the park and, you know, sometimes undesirable activities that might be occurring there. But we are thinking about moving that shelter to a location that's more visible from the parking lot. Where it is right now is to the left of the diagram of the playground right now, which is at the top of a kind of at the top of a hill. It's a little bit less visible. You can see it somewhat, but moving it closer to the playground and the field activity, we thought would make that more visible. So we can't really prevent people using it for whatever they might use it for, but if there's certainly anything illegal going on, we would ask, you know, patrons to call park police to, if you observe anything that's shouldn't be happening there. And Officer Williams, do you want to add to that?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Officer Williams, and you're right. Like I said, unless it's after hours, there's no park rules then that you cannot be in the park, so it's open to the public in general. Our part is recommending if it's an ongoing problem, you can contact the high school. So we're talking about Seneca Valley, and each school have what they call a CEO officer. It's basically a community engagement officer. They just renamed it from the school resource officer, and they can probably send one of their that officer over to the school or one of the administrators to make contact with students, and if by chance they can try to enforce truancy, but that's very hard to enforce truancy. But they can send one of the administrators or that CEO or the community engagement officer assigned to the high school to kind of come over and talk to the kids and maybe try to you know, kind of correct that. But like I said, if it's a crime going on, definitely contact park police. But just the kids hanging out, I would recommend contact Seneca Valley High School, and that way they can have administrator. They do have a team of administrators that kind of monitor the absent the schools, I guess the students missing school.
Thank you. That's great information. I didn't know that, so that's really good. Thank you for that. The next question was, is a fence being considered along the Wisteria side besides the access points, saying that people run down the hill and sometimes pop out into the street unexpectedly? And that's a good observation and a good question. When our team looked at the site and we saw there's a lot of invasive plants and a lot of vegetation that our park arborist team, our horticulture team, thought we could do some clearing of, you know, undesirable vegetation along that slope that might be able to clean it up and provide more visibility through there. So I think having the access points would hopefully direct the traffic more in those safer locations, like at the crosswalks. But we can also do some work to improve the visibility with the vegetative cover that's over there. Does anyone want to add to that? I think that was discussed in one of our project team meetings with our arborist team, but that would be, you know, that would be something we could reasonably do to help that situation. And, you know, I'm not sure, we don't typically like to put fencing up because that's just another facility we need to maintain. And I don't know if our management team would want to add to that.
I
Steve or-
agree with you on your comments, Patricia.
Okay. Just jump in, anybody who has anything to add.
And I think
on
our
that.
thoughts were to, if we providing these connections, kind of these stair connections, it'll help funnel the people to those areas instead of trying to, it's a pretty steep, I think it's a 2-to-1 or you know, steep bank that I think, you know, people want to use the stairs instead of trying to climb up and down that hill. So that was our thoughts.
Okay, thanks everyone. Questions here, are there plans to add a water fountain, a drinking fountain? I think that would be something that would be a great idea. Mike, do we have water or we have the ability to bring water in, but I think would certainly be a great amenity, given that we have the fields, the picnic shelter, and the playground there.
There,
So
there
that's-
isn't
gonna
any.
jump-
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, go
Sorry,
ahead.
go ahead, Michael. I'll let you answer that.
oh, there isn't any water on the site. I mean, we can look into that. I know that water fountains are rather expensive, and to tap into the right of way and bring a water line all the way into the park. But we can definitely look into that. And I don't know if you have anything to add, Aaron, on that.
Yeah, Aaron's our
Yeah, no.
engineer. Yeah, and
Hi, everybody.
she would
I'm
know.
I'm the engineer on the project. Yeah. Right now, there is not a water connection on the site. And that's exactly what I was just going to say, is that it's not part of the existing scope and would be quite an added expense, as opposed to if we did have a water connection on the site already, adding that water fountain would be a small amenity that we would love to add. But the scope of adding a water fountain at this point in time would be fairly large.
But, if people are interested in that, put that in, our open town hall survey. We're trying to collect the feedback from what the park users would like. So please put comments like that in there, and we'll take a look at it and see if they're feasible, and if that's something, if that's the number one amenity that everybody wants, that's something we would take a look at. But it certainly makes sense. Although, as Aaron's saying, it would be costly to bring water into the park, but it would certainly be used, I'm sure. A question about adding porta-johns, and I'm going to defer this to our park management team, but I believe there are porta-johns that are put out there during the seasons that the field is used. We were intending to, I think the pad, there's a pad out there right now, and I don't think it meets accessibility requirements. So we were going to upgrade what those might be.
Yeah, you're correct. We do have
okay.
seasonal porta pots on site
Okay.
during the summer season, spring through early mid-fall. There's 2 porta pots on site, so there
Okay.
are there during the most active time.
Okay, great. And any plans to include an AED station? And I don't know what that is. So Mike, or are there people on the call that know what that is, or if Vicky could
Yeah,
explain?
AED is
Okay.
for defibrillators
Oh, okay.
for patrons that may have a cardiac issue. I don't know of any plans. We haven't discussed that internally. There used to be a process for facilities to have AEDs in parks, but most of those AEDs are located within our park buildings, not out in the public atmosphere of a local park.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jeff. And then the next question is, could we have a basketball court? And I actually don't think we have space. Mike, you might want to, know the dimensions of the park a little bit more. I'm not sure I don't think we have room to add a basketball court. But
Yeah, there's
yeah.
probably not space for a full basketball court. We could look at creating the paved area for maybe a single hoop or something like that, where it's kind of a half court area. And we can definitely look into that, but I don't think there's room for a full court.
Okay. And if you'd like that, just a hoop to shoot, or, a smaller, not regulation size, please make sure to give us those comments in the survey, because we'd love to hear all your ideas, and we can take a look at them all as we move into design. And the next comment was love the idea of connecting to the sidewalks and the loop path. So that's good. And do the plans include removing and or replacing dead and dying trees on the park property? And we have had our park arborist walk the site with us. So, I mean, if there are dead or dying trees, I think, yes, we would take care of that. And I know we will be looking at particularly the slope along Wisteria to clear out some of the invasive vegetation. But are there others on the team who know of specific areas where there's dead trees? Mike and
Yeah, there's several dead trees along Great Seneca Highway as well that our arborist has already determined may be removed.
okay, great. Thanks.
And then we will be planting some new trees, especially around the playground and picnic area to provide shade and to help kind of make that more of an enclosed area. And basically, yeah, to provide shade.
Okay. And we have a comment here about, another good location for an access point would be directly across from the shopping center. Because when there are soccer games there, people park in the center and go up the hill to the park. And actually, Mike, you could point out to it on the plan. We had looked at that initially and thought, we'd be encouraging people to cross where there's no crosswalk, and just wondering, while people may do it, we really felt it was safer to put the crossings at places that were safe to cross the road. So, we can consider it or look at it again, but we really thought we didn't want to dump people off in an unsafe location to cross the road. So, Mike, do you have any other thoughts about that?
Yeah, that was our thought of but we can definitely look at that again of I know DOT doesn't really like to have crossings too close together, but we can definitely look at that again and just see if that's a possibility.
Okay. And then the comment again, that perhaps we could add hoops, and then another person who says the adjacent elementary school, Krista McAuliffe, has basketball courts. So is that, Mike, have you looked at what facilities are over there? I know we would be looking at, taking a look at what playground facilities they have there and making sure we didn't repeat the types of equipment that they had. But if there is basketball available there, that would be a close place to play. Do you?
I think there is a couple courts
okay.
there, and then there's at the high school as well.
Okay. Okay. Please keep asking questions. We'd love to hear all your ideas. So that's we're at the bottom of the questions, but we're here to answer anything you have and talk about any issues that you have, hear what you'd like to see in the park. So please take time. We're in no rush. But if you have other, questions and comments, please put them in. And in the meantime, I'm going to ask Aaron if you could, our project engineer, if you could maybe explain some of the issues that we need to look at with respect to treating some of the impervious surfaces on the site, and how we look at stormwater management for playgrounds, and for, in this project, when we renovate a park that has no stormwater management in place, we always try to treat what's existing when we come back in and renovate. Would you want to talk a little bit about what our strategy would be for this park?
Sure, no problem. Yeah, so right now this park is essentially considered untreated, which means that any rain that falls on the impervious surfaces that exist in the park or, anywhere else within the grounds of the park, has no water quality treatment to improve kind of the pollutant levels in that water or anything to slow that water down before it reaches the nearest waterway. So what we're doing on the plan that Mike has up right now, you kind of see some blue ovals around the parking lot. So what we would be looking to do is to try to route the parking lot water into some small facilities. On the surface, they would probably look like small gardens. So we're hoping to kind of make them not only very practical amenities to help the stormwater, but also to help beautify the park a little bit. And you can see another one that we have kind of buffering the playground from the parking lot. That'll not only catch that parking lot drainage, but also again, separate as Michael and Trisha were talking about earlier, the play area and having the kids right next to where the cars are driving. And again, those will all, generally look like mulched beds. Those locations aren't final, just like everything else in the park. We're still, exploring different ideas and definitely want to hear what you all want to see in the park before we really decide for sure where anything's going. As you know, and that's to treat, if at the parking lot, we said that's existing, we're probably going to keep the parking lot for the most part, kind of like it is right now. If we're adding the walking trail, that paved trail around the soccer fields, kind of making that nice loop for access for all, we'll add a few facilities around there as well to capture some of that water that would be running off of that impervious as well. So we're hoping to make some environmental upgrades as well as the recreational ones that you're seeing here.
Okay, great. Thanks, Erin. And actually, Carl, I'm going to ask if you, we do have a question about adding fencing on the wisteria side to prevent balls going down the hill, into the road. So that's sort of an idea, perhaps we could put some fencing at the top of the hill. And also, Carl, if you could talk a little bit about what our approach to renovating those fields might be, and anything you'd like to share about what that project might entail in terms of how we improve those fields. Because I think that's a great part of this project is we have this opportunity. We have 2 fields that are not in great condition, and we have some opportunity to make them better. So would you like to describe a little bit of what we're thinking there?
Yes, Patricia. And we can definitely take a look at the possibility of adding a fence there, and do some study on that to see if it's feasible and if we think it would help. For the athletic field renovation, what we typically do on existing fields is we do an initial deconsolidation of the soil to alleviate any compaction the field has had over the years. And considering we'll be doing a lot of grading on this one, we'll be able to also bring in a lot of engineered topsoil to create a root zone mix for the grass to have a better chance of growing. And then of course we'll grade the field so that all the water runs off. We're hoping to be able to grade each field individually with a crown. We may not be able to get that. We'll know more on detailed design, but if we can't do that, we'll definitely grade it so there's sheet flow. The current grades on the field are a little bit more than we'd like. So I know that affects the current playability of the field. So we typically do like a 1% grade across the field. If it's crowned, it'll be from the center to the sidelines. If it's just sheet flow, it'll be completely across the field. But that allows any excess of water to run off and allow the field to get back to being playable after rain events. And then we'll either sod, we'll probably sod the field, or we'll sprig and grow in Bermuda grass. We haven't determined the variety of grass yet, but those are our 2 options. Is we'll either sod or sprig it, and then we'll grow it in to make sure it's established before we allow play on it. But the key is the root zone mix is really getting the proper topsoil in there and alleviating all the compaction really helps the grass grow.
Okay, great. Thanks, Carl. And I'm going to move to our park management team next. And there is a question. Do we have concerns about access and parking along Gray Eagle Court? And I know that there are parking issues within the park, but I wanted to open it up and to each of our team members to talk about their area of expertise and if there's, challenges related to the management and operations of the park, anything that our park management team would want to talk about, specific issues in this park that we are trying to address, and also things we may not be able to, do anything about, if it's the parking or other things like that. So I just want to, while we don't have a lot of questions, we do have more questions coming in, so that's good. But I just wanted to open it up if there's things you'd like to share about, management of the park and issues that are
Patricia,
in the
I'm not
park.
familiar with parking issues along Gray Eagle. I have not seen them myself or experienced them, but I would be interested to learn more about that if the person who asked the question wanted to share more. But I've not experienced that or witnessed it. But I'm not there all the time, especially on the weekends or evenings. So it may be happening when I'm not present or staff are present.
Yeah, and we're also not actively promoting parking along Gray Eagle Court because it's not park property. So that's not our decision. I do recognize that one of the commenters mentioned when the park is fully activated with soccer games that individuals park in the shopping center. So we do recognize that when the park is fully activated, there are parking issues at this site, but unfortunately, based on the small size of the park and the existing structures that are already there, it's an issue we're aware of, and we're investigating, but I don't know if we have a solution to increase parking at this time.
Okay, thanks. I might ask Carl, and there's a question here, are the fields for pickup games or permit, scheduled? And I think, sometimes in some parks, we've kind of staggered the permit hours to address parking in some certain situations. Do you have anything you'd like to add about that, and also answer the question about permitting that's in the chat right now?
Yeah, Patricia, I don't know anything about staggering the permits, but I can definitely ask Melanie and Haviz from permits if they've done that in the past, and maybe talk to you to get a little more background. But these two fields can be permitted, and basically the permit holder has the right to the field. If there are no permits, it's basically first come, first serve. Permits for local park fields run from March 15th to the end of November, and then the fields are basically closed for permits and for the winter months because they typically are too wet for any type of play.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. And Vicky did add that on busy game days, there's sometimes backup to the entrance, and some cars park on Gray Eagle Court, which isn't currently restricted. And, I'm wondering if that is, I see Officer Williams, maybe that may be an issue. If Gray Eagle's a county road, I don't know if there's the possibility of putting no parking signs or anything up there. So I'd like to ask if anybody knows about, the ability to do that on, I don't even know if that's a public road or a private road, but, and I also wanted to sort of open it up to Officer Williams, if you'd like to add anything about, you know, any known security issues in the park other than what we talked about earlier. But I'm just opening it up to our team to anything you'd like to, you know, convey to our community about this park and your area of expertise.
This is Officer Williams. That is, I believe, it's the county road, and I think there's at least one sign kind of like as soon as you come down the driveway, say no parking, and then they had a curve. They used to have a curve marked on yellow, so, and that's something we can probably look into, is have the permits office kind of monitor the permits, because if the permits are back to back, then of course you have a parking like an overlay. The people that still on the field haven't had the chance to exit the field, and people just kind of come onto the field for the next game. So maybe we can kind of have our permits office kind of monitor, and maybe they can stagger. That might will help some if parking is some issue there. And then as far as the question or the comment about any security concerns, no real considered concerns at the park. I check all our calls for service for the year 2023, and we had over 200 some park checks. And the park check is basically officers checking the park to see how things are going. And we had 211 park checks and this was call for service for any type of incidents only 12, which is pretty good for a whole year. But no real major crime to happen at the park itself. So there's no real considered concerns at the park.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And I mean, I don't see any more questions coming in. So I think if you have any burning last minute questions or comments, you know, please post them now. But, you know, it seems like we've covered the issues or the questions that have come up. And we just want to thank you for joining us. And we are going to follow up and post this presentation and, you know, meeting notes on the project webpage. And you'll have plenty of opportunities to provide input as we move forward. So we encourage everyone to go to our Open Town Hall webpage and take the survey and let your neighbors and your friends know, and you know, anybody in the community who missed tonight, to give us your comments and ideas. We have questions in the survey, but we also have an open-ended questions where you can just write what you would like to see or what you want, if it's not directly related to a specific questions. And also, if you have any questions or comments you think of later, or if we didn't address any issue well enough tonight, please feel free to contact Mike directly, and his contact information is on the screen now. And before we close, I would like to acknowledge other team members who've been supporting us on this call, including Michelle Ramirez, Melissa Chotner, Susan Stafford, and Christina Hudson from our Public Affairs Office, and also Jeff Lee and Jim Liu, who were our Chinese language interpreters tonight, and Marisol Fanert and Johanna Marquina, who were our Spanish language interpreters. So thank you all for your support. There's all these people in the background who help make these meetings run smoothly, and we really appreciate it. All of the work we do, as you can see by the team members on the call, is really a team effort. And we really appreciate your input tonight, and we look forward to hearing more comments from you through the survey. So thank you, everybody, for participating. And Mike, I'm going to turn it back to you if you have any final comments to close the meeting.
Yeah, my only comment is please reach out to me if you have any questions or need any information, and also visit the website that's posted here, and then also please fill out the survey when you have a chance, and we'd love to get as much feedback as we can. As Tricia said, we really want to get the community input, and that's going to really help us kind of narrow down the design and see what's really wanted at Gunner's Lake. And thank you so much for spending your evening with us, and looking forward to getting this ball moving.